parties respect. And our presidents have in the past truly wanted to see Israel live in peace and security. They have not wanted Israel in a dangerous position. These presidents right here, Bush, Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Jimmy Carter, have all had an active role. See, what happens when you become president, you start believing that you might be the guy that's going to deliver peace to the Middle East. But that's Yeshua's responsibility. That's right. And he will. That's the lasting peace that we're after. Camp David, 78. Jimmy Carter. Bill Clinton, 75. Or Oslo, 93. Israeli-Jordanian Agreement, 94. Bush, Annapolis, 2007. And Obama, 2010, 2011. But 2010, September 1st, 2nd, he brought Netanyahu and Abbas to the White House. This is going to be a very interesting couple slides here. Is Barack Obama, right after he took office, told Al Arabia's audience, Al Arabia is owned by the Saudi Arabians, 72 hours after he took office, that he was going to push forward in the peace process and look forward to bringing peace to Israel and the Middle East. Then he had his valiant experience here with King Abdullah. Took a lot of heat for that. And then he spoke to the Turkish parliament, said the U.S. was not at war with Islam. And he also said that there are a lot of moderate Muslims. Well, he was rebuked the next day by the Turkish prime minister, who said there's no such thing as moderate Muslims. And then, 4 months into office, he receives the King Abdul Aziz Order of Merit, Saudi Arabia's highest honor from King Abdullah. Putting this in perspective, President Bush received it over 7 years into office. And I was on that trip with President Bush to Israel and the Middle East, and this was in 1/14/2008. So President Obama received it 4 months into office. What does that say? President Bush 7 years into office. And then Obama spoke to the Muslim world, talking about Islam and all that Islam has brought America. He talked about the fact that Thomas Jefferson had a copy of the Quran in his personal library. Thomas Jefferson had the Quran in his library so he could read it to figure out problems they were having with these Barbary pirates. They were Muslims. He and John Adams were reading the Quran to get to know the enemy. It had nothing to do with the appreciation for the book. Thanks to those Muslim Barbary pirates, we have a U.S. Navy that was developed to protect those pirates. And then he said as long as he was president, he threw open the door of America to Islam. And then he compared the Holocaust with the plight of the Palestinians. At that time, his approval of Israel at that time was 33%. And now it's in the single digit, the 5 to 7% range. And then he received the Nobel Peace Prize on December 10th. What's interesting about this, he was nominated for it before he'd even taken office. Those folks in Oslo just couldn't get over the excitement of the guy who was going to bring the world peace. Unbelievable. And then King Abdullah showed up at the office, the White House, for this is the third time they've been together. They get along very well. President George W. Bush had kind of a testy relationship with the king, even though his father had a really good relationship with the king. He never lived comfortable around King Abdullah. But President Obama always looks comfortable around the king. And on the 17th day of Tammuz, the beginning of the 21 days of sorrow for Israel, the king of the Arab world, the Sunnis, which are 80% of the Arab world, was sitting there laughing it up in the White House on how they were going to divide the land of Israel. And then Obama is giving $60 billion worth of U.S. weapons to the Saudis. But it's promised Israel that they would still have the balance of power, that the Saudi equipment would not put Israel in a precarious position. This is very interesting, is the Muslims believe, they have the Shiite and the Sunnis, the Shiite Iranian. They believe that Obama's efforts in the Middle East are going to help usher in the 12 Imam. their version of the Messiah, our version of an Antichrist. And the Sunnis, the Arabs, believe, the Arab-led Mecca, Medina, Saudi Arabia, believes that he will help defeat Iran, which will take care of the Shiite problem. Isn't that amazing? This responsibility. And then, what's also interesting is that Jews were prominent at every level of the Obama campaign and are actively involved today in his present administration. I can tell you right now, if it hadn't been for the Jews that ran the Obama campaign, he would not be in office. It was brilliantly run. David Axelrod and David Blythe ran it, and I've never seen anything quite like it. It moved so smoothly. And they took in over $750 million worth of contributions. And I read yesterday that Obama is he's planning on spending $1 billion in his re-election. Maybe he'll spend $10 and give us a long-form birth certificate so we can stop these rumors. On that, I'll just touch it very shortly. Barack Obama and his family were in Israel. I'm sorry, not yet. They would have become. But they were in Hawaii for their vacation, and the governor of Hawaii says, we're going to get to the end of this. I knew his parents. We're going to release this birth certificate as soon as I get in office, and we're going to get this thing taken care of once and for all. Chris Matthews of MSNBC, the guy that tinkled down his leg when Obama got elected. Tinkle or tingle, I don't know. He said it's time. Who's a big backer of Barack Obama says it's time for him to release it. We got to stop these birthers. There's too many people, he uses statistics, there's too many people that don't believe that Barack Obama was born in the United States. He got a couple guys on there and he says, no, this needs to be released now. For 48 hours, the governor was ready to release it, and Matthews is saying, we need to release it. And somehow or another, I think someone called the governor of Hawaii, Matthews, and it was off the newspaper and out of the press within 48 hours. We haven't heard another word about it. $10 will get you a long-form birth certificate. That's simple. It's already spent $1.7 million to fight it. So anyhow, some states might require that for the upcoming election, since that's what we need to have in order to run for president. But anyhow, the Jewish, Saul Alinsky, Bill Ayers, David Blythe, David Axelrod, George Soros, Lee Rosenberg, who's the head of AIPAC, Mort Zuckerman, who head of U.S. News and World Report, that has been very unhappy with the effort, Penny Pritzker, the Hyatt Regency family, Cass Sunstein, Radicals, Larry Sumner, Elena Kagan, our new Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Haas, head of the CFR, Martin Emdike, former U.S. ambassador to Israel, Dennis Ross, one of the chief negotiators, Dan Shapiro. It goes on and on and on. A lot of Jews in key positions. So we've got the Arabs, the Shiites looking at Obama as being a guy that's going to help him with the 12th Imam. We've got the Sunnis that believe that they're going to help with the Shiite problem. And then we have the Jews that believe that Obama, 80% of the Jewish people voted for him, is going to usher in this period of liberalism and progressivism in the United States. A lot of pressure. And then he also has a large part of the replacement theology, social justice part of the church. Replacement theology equals social justice. It's hand in hand. Gary was talking today about these people that call themselves Christians, or folks that are going to attend these events and talking about prayer and talking about one world order. What's interesting, and I discovered this moving to Washington, D.C., we've been hearing about the Council of Foreign Relations and CFR for so many years as being conspiratorial. But what I found out that most of the leaders of the CFR a lot of them go to church, but they go to replacement theology churches. And they have a worldview that's not biblical worldview like us. Isn't that interesting? Our biblical worldview is a different view than the worldview that a lot of these leaders have. One world religion. It's a compromise of your own principles to bring all religions together in order to cooperate together. It's remarkable to see this. In 80% of the church, it's about 70% of the church today is replacement theology. We have 100 million American churchgoers who have no biblical understanding to the land of Israel, what's taking place today. That's amazing. And that also is a blessing to us.